remembering my youth. I wanted to share a little funny story time. It's not funny, haha, like the popsicle story. And if you haven't seen that video, I invite you to stick around till the end and I will link that video wherever at the end. It is a very funny story, by the way. If you haven't yet checked in with that video, it is, I genuinely shared it. Trust me, not because I'm proud of myself. In fact, quite the opposite. I was quite embarrassed to share that story. However, it was genuinely too funny not to share. So again, reminder, if you haven't seen that video, it will be linked at the end of this one. Stay till the end. You queens are here for it. So anyway, I wanted to share this brief little story about life because life is funny like that. And so today I was listening to, I recalled an old album. When I say album, that makes me sound like I'm about 80 years old. A CD that I used to have back when CDs were still a thing, which it's crazy to realize that almost everything has literally gone digital now and music is available digitally. I had found some music from an artist that I absolutely adore, whose name is Macy Gray. You're welcome to look her up and check out her music. I think she has about 4 albums out there. The point of me sharing that is, when I was a kid, I listened to a lot of her music. And quite honestly, her music was, at least in my opinion, at the time, some of the best stuff out there. It wasn't, oh, I gotta be so careful. Listen, yours truly, at least, in terms of my musical tastes, I was not into boy bands like NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys. And mind you, I did have a phase. I had a friend who was very into that, so I temporarily was like listening to this stuff. Ultimately, it's not my preferred music of choice. So anyway, boy band tangent aside, the one artist that really made an impact on me and I really adored her music was Macy Gray. And as I say, she's got, I think, about 4 albums out that I'm aware of. That doesn't mean there are not more floating out there, and either is possible. There's 2 things that I find interesting about her besides who she just is as a person. And one is that her style of music is something like, well, first of all, it's uniquely her own. However, in terms of if you were to pretend, give it influences or whatever, it's like a little bit Janis Joplin, a little bit of almost like a gospel feel pulled in there with like a little Jimi Hendrix kind of flair. I don't even know that none of these comparisons will make a whole lot of sense probably either. She just had a very unique sound to all her music. She orchestrated it like in a way that I have not heard anyone do since either. It's very interesting. She's sort of like Ani DiFranco in that regard, that they both have these unique ways of orchestrating music that are honestly just really beautiful. So anyway, I was listening to this album, the first one that she ever actually put out, which was, I want to say I was around, it was in my formative teen years, so let's just call it 13 to 15s or something like that. And this album came out, at least I think that's roughly the timing of it. I was a teenager, that's all I really remember. And it was so good. And it was so interesting because her life as an artist kind of seemed to almost mirror the phases of my life. What I mean by that is, when it would become somewhat obvious via her music or the public like media or whatever that she was struggling, I was also parallelly struggling. And when she would be doing better, I also would be doing better. And I always found that interesting. With certain artists, my life would always be in parallel with them. Just a really, really interesting thing. I guess that's part of what draws a person to certain musics, maybe. I was getting to re-experience that as an adult, and man, that music just still fills me with so much joy, and it was really fun to consciously re-experience that. And also, which is the reason for this video, is actually also quite revealing and a little bit sad. So here's the rest of the story. So what quite literally brought tears to my eyes, for whatever that may be, is the fact that I suddenly realized, like I say, or have said to others, you can have an aha moment from someone saying actually almost anything. It really depends on the timing and like your current lens on the world. And so I was sitting there re-experiencing this album and I suddenly saw myself. I don't know if I've talked about this on the channel. I occasionally have sort of this external third-person perspective of myself. And it was as if my third-person perspective kicked in and suddenly became aware of the actual lyrics of some of the songs. Her music is really, really fun, so I don't want, honestly, to say anything negative about it. However, when you reach a certain level of consciousness and you're becoming conscious of the things that you're feeding your ears, you kind of don't want to repeat certain things over and over and over. So with respect, that kind of being set aside for some other conversation or a different time entirely, her music is just good on like an enjoyment level besides any of the lyrics. And what I Again, I say this brought me kind of emotional to an emotional point, and it's true, because what I suddenly realized, again, from the external, was that, oh my gosh, so much of the music that I listened to, at least at that phase of my life, during admittedly like hard times in my life. However, what I'm realizing, and this was a shocking part that kind of honestly brought tears to my eyes, that it was highlighting the way I am in relationships with people, which wasn't necessarily the most awesome realization, because essentially what it was saying via the lyrics, these different lyrics, however, they were all sort of saying the same thing. And essentially it's people to their lovers or their friends or whoever saying, and this is like paraphrasing it, essentially the message of, I'll accept you no matter what you do. And as I say, it made me quite emotional because, as you may have been able to glean, I don't know, from the videos lately, I've gained a new sense of support within myself, just a new sense of self-respect. Is a weird thing to say, it makes me sound kind of selfish. And those of you who have self-independence, I don't know if that's a word to term it or whatever, will understand what I mean. Those of you who have reached that point in your awakening journey will understand exactly what I mean by that, as I throw my notes to the floor. And yes, I do always have notes, because I guess I'm answering critical me in this moment, because I'll forget my points. Even with the best of intentions, my memory is a little bit shoddy at the moment. So it brought tears to my eyes, because what I was realizing was that the message in these songs was rather repetitive. Again, although the lyrics are different, the theme of people and the people in relationships was the same. And it was this pattern of, as I say, whatever you do, I will love you no matter what, which I have two feelings about. On the one hand, that is who I am and who I will always be to a point. And also, the really intense lesson that I've been learning this year is how important it is to stand up for yourself. Because as bitter as a pill as this is to swallow when you first hear it, no one's coming to save us. At the end of the day, we actually really do only have ourselves. So, as I've said in many a previous video, you might as well be your best friend, because when you have the option of like fighting yourself and fighting an uphill battle, fighting the universe, fighting the situations we're in, versus acceptance, which is, yes, definitely harder and also freaking amazing, because it frees us. I forgot my point. At any rate, what I was trying to share was that I had such gratitude, despite the fact that it made me quite emotional and sad, to have this sudden realization that, and I'm not exaggerating, almost every relationship that I've had to date has fallen into this category for one reason or another. And it was for varying reasons that, I split from these different people and whatever. And yet the pattern, as I say, up until recently, was that I will love you until forever, no matter what you do. And I have to share with you that that's not a healthy theme to have present in your life, because at the end of the day, the person who you ought to prioritize is oneself. Because, as I say, when we leave this world, we don't take anything with us, and we're all we have. As I say, at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, you are the only voice really in your head most of the time, other situations notwithstanding. And you might as well be your ally, because the alternative I've lived with for a good many years, and it's not a whole lot of fun. It's not, as my friends would say, a barrel of monkeys. Oh, the one point I did want to make was that the reason that I used to feel that way was, in terms of what the songs say and what their message is, was because that was my understanding of what unconditional love was at the time, which I would like to add is not the same definition of unconditional love that I have now. I still do, by the way, completely believe in love without conditions, which is unfortunately why I do tend to love people to a fault. I will love them through almost anything. And as I say, that is why in the past I have notoriously had lengthy relationships. So perhaps I'm putting this video out there to reflect upon those of you who may perhaps indeed interact in your relationships in that way. Because know this, you do not have to come second. And I don't mean that in the diva kind of a sense, like, oh, I am the queen, get me my pillows, fan me with grape leaves, and feed me the grapes. That's a lot of grapes. You get the idea. No, it's that there's a certain level of self-respect one really should hold for themselves, because at the end of the day, we are all unique souls within a body, and as I've said, unique expressions of the divine, the greater than me that understands this picture way better than me. And these days, I feel like it's almost a dishonor, a discredit, a disservice, whatever, to the divine, whatever that is, to restrict ourselves from freely expressing in the exact ways that we were here meant to do. So understand that your unique expression is, by you honoring that, you're honoring the divine, whatever that term defines for you. So I don't want to waffle on and make this too long of a video, so I hope this has been helpful. If you know anyone that it would help, please do share it with them. That really helps me out also. Subscribe, as that helps me directly as a content creator, particularly to get the messages out there to those who need to hear them, like you. And last but not least, my beautiful spirit soul, if you need any support or coaching, please don't hesitate to reach out at this email address, where it would be my genuine pleasure to serve you in whatever way I can. Have a beautiful and a blessed rest of your day or night whenever you're seeing this, and I will see you, gorgeous cats, in the next video. Namaste and much love. Stay healthy. Bye. I invite you to, you might as well be your best friend. Oh my gosh. Honestly, like particularly, but what's the word I'm looking for? Which I would like to add, that tangent aside, oh, I am the queen. Get me my pillows, fan me with grapes, grape leaves, and feed me the grapes. That's a lot of grapes. You get the idea.